Thanks, Tommy. Thanks to you. Okay, that brings us to sympathetic empathy. That's too big of a subject and I can't get into it. And number 3, humility, I don't give a shit about. I know so many people who have very big mouths and I love them anyway, so it's just not something I care about. Jonathan talks about the conscious and the unconscious mind as a little rider, the conscious, on the giant elephant, the unconscious mind. And the rider thinks he can tell the elephant what to do and where to go, but the elephant really has his own ideas and knows what to do. And it's only over a long time of training, cognitive therapy being one technique to do that, to get the rider and the elephant to really work together. But it can't go fast. There is some, there's a big process involved. And if I look at my own life, I'm now 49 years old, I made the big decisions basically myself. I made the decision to become a designer, nobody told me. I made the decision to live in New York, nobody told me. And I made the decision, in my case, to be signal, nobody forced me to it. While, let's say my dad, who's only born 45 years earlier than me, made none of these decisions himself. He married the woman that his mother told him to marry. He became the profession that his dad told him to. He took over the store of my granddad. And he stayed in Bregenz in Austria because there was no other possibility. Like even just moving to the town next door would have been an absolute sensation and he would have been seen like a foreigner. And it's sort of odd that even though now we make these decisions ourselves
without being consciously aware of it.
Well,
when George thinks about whether to move to Alabama, Iowa, or Virginia, somehow Georgia stands out. When Dennis decides whether to become a lawyer, a doctor, or a teacher, somehow dentist sounds good to him. When Paula decides if she should marry Joe, Jack, or John, Paul sounds the best. And so we make some of the most important decisions in our lives for seemingly silly reasons. There are actually more Georges living in Georgia, more Dennises who are dentists, and more Paulas married to Pauls than would be statistically viable.
Now, the strange thing is that I of course thought, well, Paula's marrying Pauls just because of the name. This must be, I mean, this is American numbers, this must be because the Americans are just so stupid that they would fall for this sort of stuff. But then I, of course, remembered my own family. This is my mom, Carolina, marrying my dad, Carl. And my grandmom, Josephine, marrying my granddad, Joseph. I'll show you very quickly through my fantastic acting places. I think this was supposed to be, well, this for sure is joy. This is disgust. This is surprise. Anger. And fear. And if you paid attention, you probably noticed that out of these 6 basic emotions, only a single one of them is positive. All the other one are either neutral or negative. And the reason for that is because we have in general a negativity bias. We are much more prone to take negative things seriously than positive things, which is the reason why we all love negative news. Every attempt to make a positive newspaper pretty much failed immediately. Or I see it if I look at a blog, and I might, even if it's a blog about our own work, there could be 50 comments on it that are positive. I zoom in on the one that's negative, and that's the one that really, really bothers me. And of course, in general, if you live in the West, we spend about the first 25 years of our life working. Then there is a 40-year period. Sorry, first 25 years studying, then there's a 40-year period of working, and then there is 15 years of retirement, and then we basically die. If you're a woman, you have another 2 years there, but you die in any case. And so my proposal is to cut 5 years of these retirement years and divvy them up and put them in between the working years. Right? I hear it works particularly well in countries that have a crisis going on. So, the advantages are, it's a shitload of fun. It's the stuff that I learn in these years in between actually goes back into my company and therefore back into society. It doesn't just benefit a grandchild or two. And I think that when I actually do retire, I'm going to be so much better at it because I have all that, experience from these other years. Jonathan talks about work in these 3 possibilities. You can do it as a job, you do it, but basically you're already looking, on Wednesday, you're already looking forward to the weekend. You can do it as a career where you are definitely more engaged, but you always have that nagging feeling in your head, like, is all that hard work really worth it? And then you can do it as a calling where you're really engaged in it, and you would also do it if you wouldn't get paid. Brings us to that sabbatical in Bali. In the very beginning, my plans were very small, so I didn't really, this was on day one, the one thing that I discovered was that my house was surrounded by these wild, quite mingy-looking dogs, one worse looking than the other. So the first project that we did was this series of t-shirts where we portrayed the 99 dogs that were surrounding my house. Every single dog got its own t-shirt. And then we had a fairly menacing message there on the back of the shirt. Because you can get stuff done in Bali, we also started to design furniture with the dogs. You can make a little sketch, and a week later it looks like this. Another week later it slowly builds, and after a month you can have, stuff like that pretty easily made. By the time that's a coffee table from the same series. It has a whole bunch of compasses on there, and the espresso cup has, makes the compasses go crazy. And of course, as a graphic designer, it's the law. You have to do a typographic chair. It's not possible otherwise. And I also found this strangely repeatable way to actually manufacture a happy moment. Take a scooter, look for a nice road in Bali that has no police, so you don't have to wear a helmet. Put 10 songs on the MP3 player that I know, that I love, but don't know that they have baggage, and ride around. And I could make my spine tingle every single time. And there's a But there's one more ingredient of that was very important, which was I had to go on that motorcycle trip or on that scooter trip without purpose. That as soon as I needed to go somewhere, I thought, oh, I'll put the headphones on, and it never worked. Or even when we shot it, it didn't work. But the purposelessness of the trip was an incredibly important ingredient, and it also made me think about, the subject has been coming up in this conference a couple of times, of the difference between art and design. And I, of course, always wanted to be a designer because I was attracted to the purpose, because the function of it was extremely attractive to me. And with the motorcycle trip, though, and the unfunctionality of it being so important to my enjoyment, it definitely made me think that I want to do some more functionless thing going forward in the future. But more of that some other time.